directors of British East India Company said, once English knowledge was imparted to the Asiatics, their faculty of reasoning would be restored and they would rise to the scale of human beings. The British thought that we are uncivilized. And education is the only way to civilize this country. And what education? It should be the education, the English knowledge. So the entire motive of initiating education in this country was moral and mental improvement of the natives, as we were called that time. Lot of time has passed on. However, today also we have the same feeling about our students. It is said now that Gora Sahab chala gaya, Kala Sahab aa gaya. The student sitting in front of me and any teacher, the teacher starts thinking, oh, these are ignorant people, they're uncivilized. What I should do is pass on some knowledge, information to them so that they become civilized. We never asked this question that British wanted to make us civilized. In the independent country, we need to impart education for economic development. We never factored that. We also always say that we should be improving the moral and mental development of the students. The idea has remained the same. The second one, this education what British started, there was no skill in that education. And even in the higher education, there was a heavy emphasis on literature and humanities. If you see the history of universities in this country and start counting the vice chancellors right from 1857, during the British period, almost 99% vice chancellors were from law and literature. This is the statistics that tells you that there was emphasis on literature and humanities. Some of us also take pride in saying that there was technical education started in this country, the Roorkee Engineering College, 1848. The purpose of that engineering college was to produce sub-assistant engineers and overseers these are the subordinate class of engineers who would materially aid European engineers. Also the medical colleges started in India. Grand Medical College in 1845. And it was also for producing medical assistants, not doctors. The medical assistant, the story goes that the British East India Company said that the European doctors who come to India are on the higher side of the age and they also require assistance in the local languages. And therefore, the Grand Medical College and also a similar college in Calcutta started producing these medical assistants. Why I'm bringing this issue is that the same thinking has continued even today. We want to produce engineers and doctors who will do some routine jobs like those engineers and doctors used to do. We never imparted that originality, original thinking, the research in their minds. So the education on the technical front has also remained at the same level. And finally, all this education developed an equation that if you take education, then you get a government job. Even after 75 years of independence, we are still having that equation in our mind. So you can see that right from 1835 till today, the core, the heart of our education system is still dictated by the English Education Act of 1835. We have not changed. We have introduced some subjects here and there. We have introduced artificial intelligence, machine learning, maybe some advanced courses. But the spirit still remains the British. And this is what the policy says that this is what we need to change. Now if you look at, this was the beginning, the Woods Dispatch, then the Indian Universities Act, and later on, so many commissions and so many committee reports came up. This is again to reorient Indian education to the realities. So you have the Hunter Commission, Lord Curzon, I'll speak about it little later, the Indian Universities Act. Then you have the Sadler University Commission, one of the landmarks. And this is what should be taught in our education departments. This is the commission which proposed three things which are now part of national education policy. The first one is the commission said that India has affiliating kind of systems. If they want to grow higher education, they need to go for unitary kind of systems. This discussion took place in 1917, now revisited in 2020 policy. Sadler University Commission also talked about 10 plus 2 plus 3 system. Before that, the students used from 10th standard, that is matriculation, used to enter university. And Sadler said that they are not matured enough to take up the university education, so create a bridge in between, and that's how the 10 plus 2 plus 3 system started. And Sadler Commission also says that every university and every college should have a vibrant education department. This policy again reiterates this, that you should have how the Indians should be educated should not be based on the models which are developed in United States or in Europe. We should have our own developed models for education. How should we impart? And that was the job of the education departments, as the Sadler Commission report said. But we never did that. And then some of the things I will refer to during the course of lecture. And finally, before independence, there was the Sargent Plan of Education, 1944. This is where, for the first time, Indian education was compared with the international education. And Sargent Commission made a statement that the Indian education is 40 years behind that of Great Britain. So this was the situation in 1944. And they had suggested a plan, but by that time India became independent. And then post-independence, you have got so many reforms. So if you count, almost every 8 or 9 years, we have some education reform taking place in this country, in which some of the landmarks are Mudliar Committee report. The 10 plus 2 plus 3 system was converted into 11 plus 4 system, and this was brought back in the National Education Policy 1986. So we're going back and forth on education. And now we have the National Education Policy 2020. So many reports, so many commission reports, so many observations. I think all academicians should read those original reports, because the answers that you are looking for today, they are contained in all those discussions. And you don't need to reinvent anything new. Everything exists. Only thing is we have forgotten about this. Let me flash some discussion on this. Lord Curzon, who was the Viceroy of India, infamous for the partition of Bengal, in 1901, he wrote a letter to all vice chancellors, then the vice chancellors. And I'm bringing just a part of that letter to you. It is of no use to turn out respectable clerks, munsips, and wakils if this is done at the expense of intellect of people. Look, a British man is talking about this. And yet we go on sharpening the memory of our students, encouraging them to the applications of purely mnemonic tests, stuffing their brains with the abracadabra of geometry and physics and algebra and logic. Teachers get carried away by the same fundamental error as their pupils, and instead of thinking only of the mental and moral development of the students committed to their care, are absorbed with the percentages and passes and tabulated results. So he sums up that the Indian education system is nothing but preparing tables and declaring who is pass and who is fail. It does not go beyond that. Now, this is an observation of 1901. Even today, we have the same thing going on around us. So, the rote learning, we started with 1835 education, is and was is one of the hallmarks of the Indian education. And therefore, this policy keeps on talking about both in school education as well as in higher education, critical thinking, problem solving abilities and all that. This is because we have been conducting our examinations which give importance to the rote learning. So we need to now reform everything. Now, I just bring a small piece from Mahatma Jyotiba Phule's deposition before the Hunter Commission of 1882. This is for the first time introduction of skill education in the schools was talked about. And what he says is the course of instruction should consist of reading, writing, accounts. There's a bookish knowledge for him. Knowledge of general history, general geography and grammar. Also an elementary knowledge of agriculture and a few lessons on moral duties and sanitation. In 1882, the skill was the agriculture, and therefore that. Then he says that in connection with the lessons in agriculture, a small model farm where practical instruction can be given would be a decided advantage, and if really efficiently managed would be productive of the greatest good to the country. That is, what you learn in the school, can you practice it in the model farm? And then he says, the textbooks in use require revisions and recasting as much as they are not practical and progressive in their scope. Lessons on technical education, morality, sanitation, agriculture, and some useful arts. In 1882, there was no terminology like technology. Technology terminology came in the 20th century. So they were all called as a technical arts. So this is what he thought should be introduced in the schools. That is, do the skill development at the school level. So there was a reason for that. This provides an economic empowerment to the students and a level playing field through the school education. This is extremely important. In education, we talk about the equity. Equity is providing level playing fields. But if the education does not have an objective, then the equity does not have any meaning, because the person who is provided some level playing field, as well as the other person, they are not going to get any job, they are not going to get any economic empowerment, then in that case, the equity loses its meaning. That is, a capable person also cannot get a job after the graduation, and disabled person also does not get a job after his graduation. Then equity, whatever you may provide to the disabled person, extra 10% marks and all that, is not going to be useful. Whereas the skill development provides an internal equity in the education system. Those who go with the bookish knowledge and answering all our questions, that's one dimension. Other dimension is providing the skill education, and that provides a level playing field for both the groups. So this was the idea in 1882. However, we just kept quiet about it, did not implement. I'll show you another one. This is 1893, Acharya Praful Chandra Ray, the great chemist of India. His observations of the university education. And if you compare with today's situation, you will find the situation has not changed. He says it is enough to mention that the market value of an average graduate does not exceed rupees 25 per month. That 25 rupees per month has become 10,000 rupees or something like that today. But then he says, barely 1% of them is successful in life in the worldly sense, while thousands rush to their doom thoughtlessly. So out of those educated people, only 1% people can find that job of 25 rupees per month. The rest of the students, they rush to their doom thoughtlessly. The college-educated Bengali youth could reproduce from memory notable passages from Shakespeare, Milton, and quote ad nauseum, Mill and Spencer, and all the same would helplessly fail in the struggle of life. This is also the rote learning, and also that in the four walls of the school or a college, we are not giving that person, the student, any skill so that he can fight in the struggle of life. Our students today also fail in that. Then he says, I do not hesitate to say that the degree only serves as a cloak to hide degree holders' ignorance. It's a mukhota. He knows little, cares to know less beyond the irreducible minimum required for passing the examination. Look, he uses very wonderful language, irreducible minimum. And that is also the same situation today for our students. However, Acharya Praful Sundar Ray was courageous enough to tell the British masters, it is necessary that the attention of the country should be clearly drawn to the colossal waste of energy and national intelligence in the past by our scheme of university education. But after independence, none of the academicians had this courage to tell the government that, look, by the way of our university education, we are inculcating colossal waste of energy and national intelligence. That's the only difference that we have. So, nothing apparently has changed in last 150, 180 years. It's the same thing what we are continuing. Some superficial changes have happened. And finally, today we talk about the industry-academia collaboration. And you know what Baba Saheb Ambedkar in 1944 proposed? If the industry refuses to employ the trainees of the technical training scheme, it is obvious that nobody is going to bother about technical training, and the training centers will have to be closed down. If therefore the training imparted under the technical training scheme is supplemented by further bias training, bias by the industry, the final product should be acceptable to the civil industry. I am prepared to accept any reasonable changes that may be suggested to make our trainings possible to the industry. And this is, in 1944, someone talks about the industry academia connect, and your syllabus to be biased by the industry. Now, last week, Maharashtra government had that GR on professor of practice. It was being talked about in 1944, that we should involve industry in our education so that we can prepare students who are passable to the industry. And now, after so many years, we are rediscovering this. So you can see that all these elements of progress, how to improve the education, particularly the higher education, existed in the discussions, the policy reports, commission reports, but nothing apparently happened. And therefore, if we make comment on the higher education today, this is where I ask that we don't need a policy. You can ask questions. Now, some questions are like this. Does the current education make our students employable? Answer is no. Does it provide them skills to enter the job market? Answer is no. Does it provide them with the 21st century skills? No. And then we keep reading in the newspapers that there is an acute shortage of skilled workforce in today's market. So what one needs to do is to introduce skill education across the spectrum of education. Second question you can ask is, why do our students desire to go abroad for education? Now, these are the figures that you can talk about. Indian students would be spending $75 billion annually on higher education abroad by 2024. and that $75 billion makes it about 6 lakh crores. That's the kind of money our parents, the poor parents in inverted quotes, in this country send abroad for educating their children. In today's world, education is a commodity. If you provide a quality commodity, people are ready to buy. People have money. Why not go for that? And second important thing is, which I keep asking the educational institutions, is that you want support from the government. I'm not against it. But Government of India budget allocation for education is about 95,000 crores. And that 95,000 crores is utilized for school education as well as the higher education. And we want some money from that. Why are we not looking at these 6 lakh crores which is going abroad? Can we handle that? And this is where you will require that a big plan and a vision, so that not only we don't send that sort of money abroad, but attract the foreign students to this country. It will not happen in a year, it will take 10 years. In terms of attracting foreign students, India's rank today is 101 out of 133 countries. Today, we have about 40,000 foreign students. And where are they from? Nepal, Nigeria, some students from Bangladesh. This is all what we are talking about. Why we cannot attract talent at large from abroad? Let me tell you, a few years ago, when I was a member of the Management Council of Mumbai University, the US Asia ranking of universities had come. And in that ranking, University of Colombo was placed above University of Mumbai. Now you ask these questions. This is very important. Why University of Colombo is ahead of Mumbai University? Academicians don't ask these questions. Management councils don't ask these questions. But these are the questions the teaching community should ask. Now I told one of the fellow members that why don't you find out why Colombo University is ahead of Mumbai University? And after a month I got an answer. See, Colombo University has dedicated centers for Buddhist studies, where they attract large number of foreign students. Where did Buddhism originate? This is in India. But you don't have this study centers in Buddhist study center. Otherwise, you could have attracted those students from Far East countries, Thailand, Malaysia, and so on and so forth. We don't attract, and therefore the Colombo University attracts a large number of foreign students. They are ahead of. We don't ask questions. Why the University of Indonesia, there are some universities, they are ahead of you, far ahead of you. Then answer comes like this, that the Indonesia, the palm, Indonesia and Malaysia, palm oil is a big business, and all those universities run research centers on palm oil, and they support industry. So their students get employment. So this is that connectivity they have established. They are far ahead of us. Whereas we're still in that mindset of 1835. Another important thing that we all must see is where is the job market? Job market is very dynamic. Now this is a list, the top career tracks of 2018, just before the pandemic. And every year this top career tracks are published. You can Google it and find out. I will find animation, VFX, multimedia, down to beauty, modeling, cosmetology, fitness, dietitian, nutritionist. Then ask the questions, which of these professions are we preparing our students for? Then how do we expect then the students will become employable. So this is another thing that we need to keep in mind. And finally, there is always a talk that India needs to get this demographic dividend. What is demographic dividend? In a country, whenever the working age population is higher than the dependent population, the country makes phenomenal economic progress, which has been demonstrated by Japan, China, South Korea, so on and so forth. And you can see here that in 2010, the China's working age population was the highest, and that was the time when China achieved phenomenal economic growth. India's demographic dividend period has started. It's going to peak around 2057 or so. So there are young people in this country, there are young hands, but they have no job on their hand. I just put on the same plot the youth unemployment rates. And you can see that 2020, the youth unemployment rate, according to the Government of India figures, is 24%. And experts say it is close to 40%. So you have the young population, they don't have job in their hand. How are we going to achieve that demographic dividend? And this is not possible because the blame comes onto the educational system. We are not providing them the right kind of education so that the younger generation can integrate with the economic development of the country. Now, this is the picture that we have, and this is the picture that we need to change. So, just a few comments. I'll sum up and then begin the discussion on national education policy, and you'll find that you don't need to really discuss anything about the national education policy. Answers are right here. It still derives its objectives from the English Education Act. Our education system has a conflict, empowerment versus elitism. Our education system is based on that elitist ideas. In the elitist ideas, as I said, that if education has no objective, then equity has no meaning, empowerment has no meaning, then what happens is the elitism. Elitism means a graduate person is better than the 12th standard pass person, a postgraduate person is better than the graduate person, and a PhD is greater than this. Whereas the 12th standard graduate or postgraduate or PhD cannot earn their livelihood. But we say that this fellow is great, he has learned, he has got his PhD. This is that elitism. We need to get out of that elitism. And our cultural background tells us that the work of the head is better than the work of the hands. And therefore, today, our students want to have a job with a table chair and a laptop on the top. We talk about the skills, we have not introduced the dignity of labor to our students. How can we build this country? And finally, it is disconnected from the socio-economic realities. This picture, if we want to change, what is the need of the day? Is to change the mindset of managements and the teachers. And second one is to understand the spirit of NEP 2020. We cannot, now we have the new syllabus, new things coming up. You cannot work that with the mindset, the older mindset. You have to create now the newer mindset. And that mindset will take you forward. Otherwise, you'll be trapped in the same logic that we have been using for the last 180 years. So, there are two main elements of NEP. Whenever you design anything, academic programs or anything, keep in mind two things. The first one is NEP 2020 recognizes the circular relationship between education and economic development. This is the first policy in India which says good education will lead to good economic development. Until that time, we always thought that the students have to be made good citizens of this country. These all laudable objectives, but never connected to the economic development. Now, some people say why this is important. Yes, if you give education which does not empower any student, or if you give an education which empowers a student, the society in which the students they have a job, that society is going to be more peaceful. Otherwise, all these unemployed youth are going to run the trains, they're going to throw stones. The civilization and also the good citizenship is embedded into the economic development. And this economic development and education is a two-way relationship. Good education creates human capital, and that human capital leads to economic development. It's a skilled manpower. And also, in particular, the higher education systems, through their research, should create newer opportunities of economic development. They should do such kind of a research that it will have an economic value, it will create new opportunities. And other way around, if you have the economic development, then that economic development will lead to investment for improvement of quality and quantity of education. This circular relation has to be understood. Now, I have not brought that particular view graph, but I'll tell you in words. You take every year's QS University ranking, and we read that and we say, oh, in India, the highest QS ranking is 200 or 190 or something like that. Have you asked the question, why is it so? Now, do the simple exercise. Take United States. What is the highest QS ranking for the university? 1. What is the GDP of United States? It is $68,000 per annum. Then, what is number 10? This France. Okay, number 10. And find out the GDP. And now you plot the highest QS ranking versus the GDP of that country. You will get a beautiful plot that as you start going towards the $50,000 per annum, those countries tend to have better ranks in the QS University ranking. And what is our GDP per capita? 2,480. And for that, a rank of 200 is appropriate. So never have that illusion that if we work hard and do this, our scientists are great, our teachers are great, nothing is going to happen. One has to look at the practicality of the situation, that unless you become economically powerful, your universities are no longer going to be in the top 100. To get into the top 100, my assessment is your GDP should be $10,000 per capita, which will take time too. So this is one issue. The second issue is this is a policy in favor of demand side stakeholders. See, education has two sides of stakeholders. One is supply side stakeholders. Universities, colleges, teachers, non-teaching staff, we all people are on the supply side. Who are on the demand side? The students, their parents, the industry, all sectors of economy, they're on the demand side. All our earlier policies were supply side policies. They encourage teachers so that the education can be taken to the nook and corner of the country. Now, for the first time, this policy declares this is a demand side policy. You teach students what they need, the way they can be empowered. They can satisfy their aspirations. The industry requires certain kind of skill sets. Produce those students. So this is now happening to be a demand side. So now when you said this has got a far-reaching implications, but suppose if you start preparing the syllabus of your course, keep it in mind. How is it going to empower a student economically to get a job, to get a skill? What is the appropriate skill that you are going to introduce as per your course? These are the important questions that we have to keep asking at every stage. So finally, all that 450 plus pages of NEP can be summed up in just one line. That is to provide multidisciplinary education with emphasis on vocationalization, skill development, 21st century skills, and provision for flexibility and Indian values. And you can add in between the society connect. This is all what it demands. There's nothing more than that. Provide multidisciplinary education with emphasis on vocationalization, skill development, 21st century skills, and the provision for flexibility, society connect, and Indian values. So if you catch these words, then understanding NEP is pretty easy. So now, this policy envisages two transformations. One is the structural transformation. It's a very disruptive transformation. And second one is the academic reforms. So I'm going to mainly talk about the academic reforms, but I'll just sensitize you what is the structural reform it anticipates. And the structural reform is to end the fragmentation of Indian higher education system and create multidisciplinary higher education institutes. That's the objective there. And then the academic reforms, how to harvest skills, employability, entrepreneurship, 21st century skills, society connect through effective academic programs. So this is what the second issue is. So we are going to discuss this in detail, whereas it's also important to sensitize you on the first one. Some useful ideas about the structural reforms. The policy says that the higher education in India is fragmented, and this fragmentation we need to end. But for that we should know what is that fragmentation. Now, in India, the higher education is fragmented in two ways, mainly two ways. The first one is, you can see we have the state universities which are affiliating kind of systems. They have their colleges. They are non-agricultural, agricultural, medical, technological, legal, and so on and so forth. And then we also have unitary systems, like the central university, except Allahabad, they are unitary. Private universities are unitary. Central institutes like IITs, NITs, they are unitary. And also deemed to be universities are unitary. So there is a first fragmentation that has happened is there are affiliating universities and there are unitary universities. Now, before entering this hall, someone wanted to know what is the difference between unitary universities and affiliating universities. Now, the first one is the affiliating universities have a jurisdiction. Like your University of Mumbai has a jurisdiction of 4 districts. The unitary system does not have jurisdiction. It is where it is. IIT Bombay is where it is. It has no jurisdiction. Its jurisdiction is within IIT Bombay. In affiliating systems, you take admissions in the colleges. In unitary system, you take admissions in the university. And therefore, the unitary system has a unique timetable for itself, whereas affiliating system will have timetables depending on the number of colleges. The affiliating system has colleges which are called the affiliating colleges, whereas a university system, unitary system, can in principle have colleges, but those colleges are called the constituent colleges and they have to follow the university's timetable. So there are differences in this. So what this policy says is that at the time of writing this policy, there were 800 universities and 40,000 colleges. So you dismantle everything, and from this structure, create 15,000 large well-resourced, vibrant, multidisciplinary unitary institutions. So dismantle that affiliating structure and create unitary systems. And what about these unitary systems? They have to become multidisciplinary. So IITs cannot say we are going to teach only science and technology. They'll have to now concentrate on humanities, agriculture, medical sciences, everything they'll have to take on the board. So at the end, we envisage a large number of multidisciplinary unitary institutions. So this is what is the first proposal. There is a second fragmentation that has happened in the Indian system. That is, we have created universities specialized for some fields, and that has created fragmentation. For example, a student of botany in your college, that student wants to learn about horticulture or floriculture or anything, he cannot do it because that's part of the agricultural universities. So what your botany students will end up in doing, all the classification of plants, bookish knowledge, and that's all. Nothing more than that. You will evaluate, but in the world, practical world, he has no value. My student of engineering wants to learn about the patent laws. He cannot learn in his engineering college because all the laws are in the legal universities. Fragmentation. A student of physics wants to learn about medical technologies because all these medical techniques, they are based on electromagnetic theory. So he is the person who wants to do that. He cannot do it because that's in the medical universities. He is sitting here. So what we end up in teaching our physics students, the gravitational field theory and hi-fi things, which he finds useless in real life. This is because of that fragmentation. A student of zoology cannot learn anything beyond the bookish knowledge because the animal husbandry and that's part of the different universities. Can you break these isolations which has happened? And if you take a typical university in the United States or in Europe, under one roof you can learn everything from law, sciences, applied sciences, everything, languages, humanities you can learn. So can we create those kind of systems? That is the whole meaning for this. And when it is said that we'll have a multidisciplinary institute, what does it mean? That also definition is given. The departments in languages, literature, music, philosophy, Indology, art, dance, theatre, education, mathematics, statistics, pure and applied sciences includes everything. Sociology, economics, sports, translation and interpretation will be established and strengthened in all higher education institutes. So by 2030, we got to create this kind of structures where you have the departments like this. So this is what is on the structural plan. Now, pictorially, this can be viewed like this. Current structure is like this, where there is a university and there are colleges around. Now, can you group them in the manner that each of this group becomes multidisciplinary higher education institute? So you can think that in this group there is one engineering college, one nursing college, one BA, BSc, BCom college, one education college. They can group and form a multidisciplinary higher education institute of the unitary type. There could be institutes who would say that, well, we will expand the number of departments in our institute and will be standalone. That's also permitted. So this is what is the structure that is anticipated. Now there is one problem which the people in the university structure are not discussing, and this is where former Vice Chancellor is here, so I would like to mention it. When the colleges, affiliated colleges, have got out of the university, then what the parent university would do? And if any university wants to be called as a research university, it should have an admission of over 3,000. None of the universities on the campus have registration of 3,000. This is because of that 1904 University Act, which says that a postgraduate education will happen on the campuses. The undergraduate education will be taken care by the colleges. Now, if the colleges go out, what do these universities do? In fact, the spirit of NAP is that they must develop themselves as multidisciplinary higher education institutes with the undergraduate and postgraduate programs. This is what is the need. But they are not discussing it because it's going to be difficult for them because infrastructure. Our colleges have got huge halls because they cater to the undergraduate education. Our universities are catering to only 100 students, 200 students. There are small classrooms. They cannot start undergraduate program. They will have to do massive restructuring. Now let me come to the real issues. The academic reforms, and we'll talk here about the curriculum, skill development, experiential learning, credit structure, pedagogy, all kinds of things. Now I cannot do justice to each and of this topic because each one of these will require a detailed discussion. Now, what is the statement made in the policy? Credit-based courses, projects, seminars in core and interdisciplinary subjects with the skill components. Credit-based courses and projects in the area of community engagement and service, environmental education and value-based education. Students to be provided opportunities for internship with the local industry, business, as well as research internships. And higher education institutes will focus on research innovation by setting up startup incubation centers, research in humanities and social science. I am extremely happy that the policy makes a special reference to research in humanities and social sciences. When we talk about research, we always talk about some research related to science and technology, but humanities research is extremely important. See, from 2017 to 19, we were moving in all universities in Maharashtra, Anand Mapuskar and me and a team. And to the humanities department, I used to ask a question. See, farmers' suicide is the biggest problem in Maharashtra. How many of your students have done PhD on this subject? You'll be surprised. There is only one thesis from Maharashtra on farmers' suicide. What humanities people are doing? Research on what is the problem in the South China Sea. There's some material which comes and they join. What about this? And if you go onto the internet, the best thesis on farmers' suicide in Maharashtra is from Heidelberg University. A German student has done it. So, bring back that social... See, in Mumbai, I was thinking that somebody would do research on slum SRA. Nobody wants to do that. Are those policies correct? Who have benefited? What is that happened? It's a great research that one can do, but we don't want to do that. Now, come to the crux of the problem. Here I have some more discussion. The policy as well as the UGC guidelines say it is 3-4-year undergraduate degree with a multiple entry, multiple exit options. So that is on the left side. You can see that a student enters the first year, he can get out with the certificate with some requisite courses. Then enter in he continues in the second year or can enter in the second year. He can exit with a diploma. In the third year, he can exit with a degree. And in the fourth year, which is largely research based, he can get a degree honors. This is one issue. Second one, the policy makes a statement that 4-year B.Ed course is going to be now the order of the day, in which a student will take up admission for BA, BSc, BCom, and also take up the courses in education, and he will get 4-year degree integrated degree. And this is going to be important because from 2030 onwards, the minimum qualification for entering into the school service is going to be 4-year B.Ed course. Now you see 2030, by this time we should have started this program in Maharashtra, but we are still not doing it. At least by 2025 we should introduce this course, otherwise after 2030 our students will have difficulty. So let's also add here that there is a flexible master's program. Suppose the student exited after 3 years, he can do 2 years degree, postgraduate. If he has exited after 4 years, he can do 1 year degree, or one can do 5-year integrated program. And finally, the re-entry is permitted within 3 years. So a student can exit and within 3 years he can join again. Now this is the structure what has been provided. Now there is a lot of debate which I keep seeing in Maharashtra about this, and that is firstly because of the wrong wording used in one of the GRs in Maharashtra, that it transiting from 3-year degree to 4-year degree. This is not the spirit. The spirit is to run this 3-year and 4-year degrees. Now, what are the repercussions? This is what you people will have to decide. In what way the student will get benefited by a 4-year degree? Ask the question. Now, if you look at the employment platform for the science students, he wants to apply to DRDO, ISRO, BRC, DAE. What's the minimum qualification? MSc. That is 5 years after 12th standard is the standard education qualification. So, in what way the 4-year degree helps him? After 4 years, he cannot get a job. He'll have to do 1 year MSc or MA. In the education sector also the same thing, the minimum qualification is a master's degree. So in what way the 4-year degree is going to be useful to him? It can be useful to him if he wants to go abroad. Because American system says that to get admission to PhD, you need 16 years of schooling. So 12 standard plus 4 years, 16 years. So are we trying to engineer our education policy for those select students who want to go abroad? You academic community need to ask this question. Second important thing is, if you look at the statistics, the students going for post-graduation is just about 15% in this country. So if you have this 4-year degree course, by the time the students reach 3rd year, they are going to exit. So how many are going to be left in the 4th year? This is another thing that you'll have to worry. Now, if you look at the common university entrance test which happened this year, students were seeking admissions for 3-year degree courses as well as 4-year degree courses. And which were the 4-year degree courses which students wanted to take up? I'll tell you, in humanities, English, 4-year degree. Economics, 4-year degree. Political science, 4-year degree. And on sciences, the 4-year degree in BSc with information technology, machine learning, artificial intelligence. So you pick up those areas. Suppose you want to do all the courses 4-year. I do not think, I do respect Marathi, but a Marathi student will not go for a 4-year degree. He'll go quit after 3-year degree. The 3-year degree is good enough for him to compete for NPSC, UPSC, all kinds of things. It is actually a graduation degree. He does not require research experience. Whereas a 4-year degree in foreign languages may be a good bet. So this is what judicially every college, every educational institute has to decide. Otherwise, it's going to lead to a lot of wastage of efforts. Also important is, doing 4-year degree has an advantage that if you get the CGPA of 7.5, then you can get admission directly for a PhD course. So you save 1 year. But suppose a student cannot get 7.5 CGPA, then what happens? Then he'll have to again take an admission for 1 year post-graduation and then go for a PhD. So you can see that all these things you'll have to work out, decide. Don't go by the spirit which I have seen in Maharashtra. 4-year degree is better than 3-year degree. This is elitism. Don't decide anything on elitism. Decide on the practicalities. Now, the curriculum framework, important, and this is where a lot of confusions have come in. Well, multiple exit entry we have discussed. It also gives you a flexibility to move from one discipline to other. In papers, in newspapers, you'll see that statement, but it has to be taken with a pinch of salt. What are the actual provisions? Opportunity to choose courses of interest in all disciplines. Again, you'll have to choose it, take it with a pinch of salt, and flexibility to move from one institute to other, and flexibility to choose alternate modes, online, offline, or hybrid. Now, let me start motivating this with the basic definitions. The academic year is 2 semesters. One semester is 90 working days. And that 19 working days, there is a bracket, it is 15 weeks. And that 15 number has a meaning. And in addition, you have a summer term of 8 weeks. And this 8 weeks to be utilized for internship, apprenticeship, or work-related vocational education. Or if a student fails in the first semester or second semester, then he can be given a crash course in these 8 weeks and re-examine. And if he can clear those subjects. So there are 8 weeks he can use that. Now, this 15 weeks, there's 90 working days. That 15 has a meaning in terms of the credits. That is, if I teach a course where I deliver 1 lecture per week for 15 weeks, then it is 1 credit. If I give 2 lectures per week for 15 weeks, then it is 2 credit course. So basically, 15 lectures in a semester would constitute 1 credit. So that is why that 15 weeks, to make that calendar, this is important. Now, what is the credit structure? Credit structure, now this has been simplified a lot, that you can have a taught course or a tutorial, which is face-to-face. This is lecture relating to a discipline. 15 lectures is 1 credit. So if you want a 4 credit course, then every week there should be 4 lectures. That is what it means. And the laboratory work, which is experimental work, is 30 hours is 1 credit. So if you have got 2 hours practical every week, it will make 1 credit for the practicals. And there are many other forms of teaching learning are proposed, like studio activities, seminars, workshop-based activity, field practices, community engagement, internship. In all these cases, students' engagement for 30 hours is 1 credit. Now, I'll have comment on some of these issues little later, that we need to go away from the standard method of teaching our students. That is, go to the classroom and teach for 1 hour. Now, there are lots of alternatives which have come up, and we will discuss them separately. And based on this, you have the structure. So in the first year, minimum credits are 40, and the student takes 4 credit skill course with the 6 credits job-ready training and apprenticeship. He can exit with the undergraduate certificate. Second year, total cumulative credits are going to be 40 plus 40, 80. Again here, if the student takes 4 credit skill course with the 6 credit job-ready training, then he can exit with the undergraduate diploma. In the third year, there is no skill course. He can exit with the bachelor's degree. In the fourth year, if he decides, then you have 2 varieties. One is the bachelor's degree with honors, or bachelor's degree honors with research. Now, the honor student here, if they don't want to do research, then they will do 3 courses for 12 credits. The project is supposed to be for 12 credits, so equivalent credits the student will have to earn through 3 courses. And the most important thing is the infrastructure requirement for introducing a 4-year course are the well-equipped laboratories, computers, and 2 permanent faculty members who are recognized as PhD supervisors. Now, suppose a college does not have, what do? Can they implement 4-year program? They can implement 3-year program. UGC guidelines are very clear. Why we are jumping on this 3-year, 4-year, I do not understand. The second thing is, suppose if you have a cluster, in that cluster, only one college can run 4-year degree course. Other colleges can run 3-year degree course. The reason being, only 15% of those students are going to go for a higher education. Then you'll have sufficient number of students for that one college which is running the 4-year degree course. So you can use the multiple entry, multiple exit model there. Now, there has been some apprehensions about this, and I would like to discuss this little more. This 4 credit skill course plus 6 credits for apprenticeship, the student can get out with a certificate or here with the undergraduate diploma. Now, in between in the newspapers, there was an news item that one former vice chancellor said that only 5 to 10% student will leave in the first and second year. Now, I called that reporter and said that, well, I don't want to know the name of the person, but how have you arrived at that figure, 5 to 10%? Have you done student survey? Have you done anything? See, anything which is not based on any statistics and data has to be rejected. And this idea that you should have these skill courses, this is not NEP 2020 idea. This was discussed in the Hartog Commission report in 1929. And I'm bringing to you the statements of the Hartog Commission, and which is also important today. The universities are overcrowded with men who are not profiting either intellectually or materially by their university training. It's true even today. Each student in a university or a college costs in every country far more than his fees, sometimes 5 to 6 times as much, and this money in India comes in part from endowment, but largely from the public purse. So don't think that the student is studying because he is paying some fees. The society pays 5 to 6 times more on him. And therefore, this report concluded, if those students who now go to a university or a college without being really fitted for higher work were diverted in large numbers at an early stage to careers better suited to their capabilities, money would be set free for more profitable educational use. Why are you wasting money? This is that colossal waste of national intelligence and resources which Acharya Praful Chandra was also talking about. So, what I understand is that these skill courses really allow to select in a manner that the students will be empowered and they will exit the system. Any structure of any kind in society is a pyramidal structure. The education also needs to be pyramidal. It has a big base because there are so many admissions taking place. And then the student should have an opportunity to exit at every stage. So that finally you will end up with some people who are genuinely interested in doing some research and they can contribute. Today what has happened is that our education system is training our students to take more education. The aim of primary education is to prepare a student for a college education. The aim of college education is to prepare him for university education. The aim of university education is to prepare him for a PhD. And at the end, when the student comes in the real life, he does not know what to do. This has to stop at some point of time, and we keep reading it for a job of a chaprasi. Even those who have got PhDs and engineering, they apply. What for? That's because we have not taken into account the pyramidal structure of education. Now, there is some confusion which can occur in the curriculum framework. So let me define the terminologies. Now, there is a category called disciplinary courses. Now, disciplinary courses have been grouped under 5 categories: natural and physical sciences, physics, chemistry, biology, botany, zoology, whatever you can call. The second group is mathematics, statistics, and computer applications, which will also include practical demonstration of Python, Stata, SPSS, Tally. The third one is library information and media sciences, all subjects. And the humanities and social sciences, all the economics, political science, all that put together, languages, and commerce and management. These are called the disciplinary courses. Then you have interdisciplinary courses. Now, this document was written probably by a person who was from humanities, so you don't have that mention of the science subjects which are interdisciplinary, but you can always create them. Cognitive science, environmental science, gender studies, international relations, political economy, sustainable development, urban movements and gender studies. You can put nanotechnology if you like, all that. So these are interdisciplinary courses. Then there are ability enhancement courses. This includes some modern Indian language and English. The course focused on language and communication skills. Okay, depending on what students wants to do, you'll have to train him in that manner. See, here I always say that after guiding so many PhD students, I openly make a statement that I ended up in writing thesis of my student. The reason is our students cannot write a document in a consistent manner. So finally, guide enters in, writes, and student gets a PhD. When I was in US, I was told that PhD is not awarded to a thesis. PhD is awarded to a person. And therefore the viva becomes the greatest part of this. That the student has to interact with the expert and satisfy the expert, and then the expert will say, okay, the degree can be conferred on this particular person. In India, we don't do that. So let us teach some good English to our students. Skill enhancement courses. This is imparting practical skills, hands-on training, soft skill to introduce enhance employability. Then there are value-added courses, the understanding in India, environmental science education, digital technological solutions, health, wellness, yoga, sports, fitness. Now, for a student, how does he choose subjects? He has to choose a major. The major can be disciplinary or interdisciplinary. So this is in-depth study of a particular subject, and this is that small flexibility given, that a student may be allowed to change the major within the broad discipline at the end of second semester. That is all is the flexibility available. What it means is that if you look at these courses, disciplinary courses, let's say the student has chosen one subject from the natural and physical sciences. Let's say he has chosen physics as his major, and after 1 year he finds that he is not going to do physics, then he can choose any other subject within that bracket. So he can choose chemistry, biology, or whatever it is. He cannot go beyond that. So that is what the meaning of this, that first year, at the end of the second semester, he can choose his major. Then the student will have minor, which is again disciplinary or interdisciplinary. Now, for a 3-year degree course, the minor is for 24 credits. So minimum credits required for a minor is 12, and one of that minor can be a vocational course. And student may declare the choice of minor and vocational stream at the end of second semester. That is, if he wants to take that vocational course as a minor. Then there is another terminology which is used, which is called the multidisciplinary courses. Now we have seen disciplinary courses, interdisciplinary courses, value added, all that. Now there is a mention of multidisciplinary courses. What does it mean? Let me not go to the definition, but come back to that whole thing. That suppose a student has chosen a major and minor from here, natural and physical sciences, physics, chemistry, maths, biology. Now, in order to give him multidisciplinary exposure, he'll have to now take 3 courses from any of these remaining. So now he can take economics, I can take entrepreneurship from this, or he can take any language course. So he has to take, these are the multidisciplinary. So apart from the major and minor, which he has selected, from the other bracket, he can choose 3 subjects. And this is what is called as the multidisciplinary. So a student of science, let's say, which goes with the physics and maths major and minor, will have to necessarily take some subjects like economics, maybe languages, maybe entrepreneurship, or whatever it is from other brackets. This has been made a little complicated, but, and there is one caveat there. Courses from other disciplines other than major and minor and not studied at the 12th standard. See, if the student has taken computer sciences in the 12th standard, then he cannot choose one of those subjects from the bracket of computer sciences. So you can see that it has been made sort of a consistent, so that is a disciplinary, multidisciplinary. Credit structure, each discipline specific course is 4 credits. Like I have given an example that if I am teaching physics major, then I will teach classical mechanics, quantum mechanics, statistical mechanics, electrodynamics, so many courses. Each course will be for 4 credits. So that is the way one will have to design it. Each course in multidisciplinary ability enhancement and skill enhancement is 3 credits. Each course in common value added category is 2 credits. And research project for honors degree is 12 credits. And last week UGC added one more criteria, community engagement is 2 credits. So that is all gets added here. So you'll have to now start preparing this based on this credit structure. And then UGC gives you the table. Minimum credit requirement, 3-year degree, 4-year degree. Major, 60 credits, 24 credits, 9 credits, 8 credits, 9 credits. Value added 6 to 8. Summer internship 2 to 4. And total 120. And here you will find that major and minor credits are raised. Whereas multidisciplinary ability enhancement, skill enhancement, value added, summer internship, those credits are common to 3 and 4-year degree because those courses the student is going to take in the first 2 years. So and research project is 12 credits. And then this value added, one of that course you can take as a community engagement for 2 credits. So again, honor student not taking research will have to do 3 courses for 12 credits. And minimum 12 credits are required for vocational course as a minor. And 40% credits can be earned on the online. So that's the total structure that it talks about. Now there is UGC wants to introduce this kind of a formulation which is extremely good. That is, you have various levels of courses and they are indexed. 0 to 99